Hi, this video looks at price elasticity of demand as a key topic to revise for A-level business. The definition and formula on the board, I'll let you read them. Okay, so learn the formula off by heart. You have to do that. It's easy. Percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. Get it learnt. The definition is what we're measuring with price elasticity of demand. What we want to know is if we change our price, how much do consumers respond to that? Because that's going to be crucial to know. If I put my price up, are consumers going to be really responsive to that and move away from my product? Or are consumers relatively unresponsive to a change in price, in which case I can put up my price and I don't lose that many customers. People continue to buy the product. Okay, I'm going to show you a little table. Just have a look at that, maybe pause the video, see if you can see what's going on. Okay, so when I'm teaching PED, I love to use a 10% change in price, right? Because you're then dividing by 10%, which is easy. We're just moving a decimal point effectively. So on the left-hand column here, we've got the percentage change in quantity demanded. In the middle column, we've got the price, and then we've got the PED coefficient. Right, so these first three, where there's a 0 point in front of my PED coefficient, right? It starts with 0 point. They start with 0 point because the percentage change in quantity demanded is less than the 10% change in price. So what we're saying here is if I put my price up by 10%, each of these changes in quantity demanded, the change in quantity demanded is proportionally less than the 10% change in price, right? So if I put my price up and consumers really don't respond very much to that at all, I might only lose 1% of demand. My PED coefficient is 0.1. Okay, a 10% change in price, if I lose 5% of my customers, my PED coefficient is minus 0.5. What this is telling me, if I calculate PED, it's not always going to be a 10% price change in the exam. In fact, it rarely will be because that would be too easy. But if I calculate PED and the coefficient starts 0 point, I know I have got a price inelastic product. There is price inelastic demand for my product. In other words, consumers are responding proportionally less than the change in price. And in this case, we can see that I can put my price up because if I increase my price by 10%, I only lose 5% of my customers. Even if I increase my price by 10%, I only lose 9% of my customers. I am going to earn more revenue because revenue is quantity times price. Okay, what about though when I change my price by 10% and consumers are responsive to that? They're very responsive. If there's a whole number in front of the decimal point, okay, it means I've got a price inelastic product. Consumers are relatively responsive to the 10% change in price. So here I've got a 10% price rise. I lose 15% of my customers. Minus 15 divided by 10 is minus 1.5. Okay. Down here, we've got some very responsive customers. As a result of my price change right at the bottom here, increase in price 10%, loss of 50% of my customers, minus 50 divided by 10 is minus 5. You'll notice the PED coefficient always starts with a minus. I can, what I'm looking for is the first number. If it's 0 point, it's price inelastic. It's always going to be a minus because the demand is going to go the opposite way to the price, right? So, what determines PED? Well, there are a variety of things that determine the PED of a product. If there are a lot of substitutes, you're likely to have price elastic demand because when you put your price up, people can just swap out. The percentage of income spent. If the purchase represents a large percentage of income, i.e. I'm buying a new car, right? Consumers are very responsive to that change in price because if a new car doubles in price, right, it's going to make it really unaffordable for me. Okay, but if I'm buying a 10p suite and they double the price to 20p, it's the same 100% increase in price, but this time it's a lower proportion of my income. So I'm less responsive to that change. Okay, if the product's a necessity, price inelastic demand, right? I have to have it, doesn't matter what the price is. Strong advertising and branding. It makes me view the product as a necessity. There are no substitutes for it. Think Nike, right? That plain white t-shirt sold in Primark will probably sell for £5. You put a little Nike logo on it and it sells for 20 quid, right? That is because of the advertising and branding. Finally, time. Over time, products tend to become more price elastic. Okay. If I'm driving in the middle of the night and I'm running out of petrol, I'm going to have to go to a 24-hour petrol station, even though it's expensive, because I don't have the time to wait until morning if I'm driving, and I'm going to have to pay that high price. It's the same with products. Over time, people can find substitutes. In the short time, you put your price up, people might need to consume that there and then and say there's no choice. Right. Well, why is price elasticity of demand a key topic? Right. First of all, it determines what a business should do with price to increase revenue. Right. This means we can use it in loads of exam questions. All right. A question on operations where we're going to install new machinery that makes the plant more efficient. That reduces average unit cost. What should we do with our price if we reduce our cost of production? Well, if we've got a price inelastic product, don't change your price, okay? But use that lower average unit cost to boost your profit margins, all right? If you've got a price elastic product where consumers are going to be very responsive to change in price, then change your price. So the more you look at exam questions, the more opportunities you'll see to use PED. And if you use it well, the examiners love it. Okay, I love that 10% price change because it's really easy. You should pause the video and maybe read this example of a sentence that an examiner would love to read in an exam. Okay, so this is a really simple numerical example. Let's say I've been given the information that a product is minus 0.6 PED. I can just say, well, a 10% price rise only leads to a 6% loss of customers. Therefore, revenue would be likely to rise. Therefore, the product should raise its price because it's got price inelastic demand, blah, blah, blah. Right, the examiner would love that. Okay, to evaluate PED, we can say that PED might only be an estimate. We have to treat this with caution. It's usually based on prior data or it's just a guess about PED. Okay, so we don't know for sure that it's not an exact science, pricing decisions. So we need to take that into account. Cutting prices might not increase revenue if rivals also cut their prices. Most businesses are going to want price inelastic demand for their product. Why? Because then you can increase your price without losing too many customers. If you're relying on price elastic demand to boost your revenue, then you're at the mercy of your competitors. You put your price down to increase your sales. Well, maybe your sales won't change that much because your rivals also do it. Okay. And it's worth remembering that price isn't the only factor that affects demand, right? On all A-level exam boards, you need to know factors that affect demand. We've got income, we've got the price of substitute goods. All of these things also affect demand other than price. But really important topic. You can use it in so many different exam questions. Please, please, please make sure you revise price elasticity of demand before your A-level exams.